We're in the Ante Drome in Cambridge, New Zealand, and if you come to New Zealand, it only makes sense that you ought to talk with New Zealand's famous cycling export, Miss Sarah-Ulmer.
Export. Not sure how far-reaching the export went, mate.
But I was there at the Hisense Arena when you broke a world record and won a world championship and took a gold medal home and the rainbow jersey.
Good memory.
Alas, I missed the opportunity to see you break a world record and climb off with cramps when you won the gold, an Olympic gold. But that was an exciting time for you, an exciting time for New Zealand cycling. A lot's happened since. You've become a mum.
Yep.
Which is the biggest and most important job in the world.
Yeah.
And it makes bike riding look trivial.
Well, it gives you another perspective of bike riding.
Yeah.
So, what do you believe I haven't actually ridden on this track? I know, yeah, so when was this built? 3 years ago, maybe? Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is awesome for New Zealand cycling, but I actually haven't ridden it. But I do ride my step-through bike with the basket on top. I rode my youngest to school this morning with backpack on the front basket, and that's my cycling. That's basically the cycling that I do, and I love it. Yeah. I love it. It's funny, you think when you race competitively and the thrill of competition, all that sort of stuff, you think you can't really enjoy another part of the sport, where I get as much enjoyment out of kicking around with my kids on my bike, on a totally different type of bike with them feverish, but like you and Louie, than what I did when I was racing, so it's cool.
Brendan Cameron is your partner, the father of your children.
Thank you for the clarification. Yeah. Both of the above, yes.
And he was your coach during the racing, the most successful years of your racing. Yep. And you've settled in New Zealand and you're perfectly comfortable without travelling, or what's happening?
Yeah.
Do you miss the competitive arena?
Oh, actually, I don't really. I did for a little bit. It's 12 years ago, man. It's a different life. Yeah, and then you have kids, and suddenly, the world becomes your children, and it's amazing. Yeah, so Brendan's now the women's endurance coach here for New Zealand. So he's the team's women's track endurance coach. So he travels. He gets his fix of international destinations around the world. So he went to Rio this year and London and all this sort of stuff. And I hold forward at home, and it's fine. I love it. We did sort of have a little foray into France a couple of years ago and went to live there for 6 months to get a bit of a international fix again. But otherwise, no, it's cool. Yeah, it's just a different world, two completely different lives.
Let's backtrack a little just for the benefit of understanding why you stopped, because you had a really impressive career. I think there were a few years where you were silver, and then suddenly there was this time when you teamed up with Brendan, and then it became a gold.
Yes and no. It wasn't that really. My career wasn't really that impressive. No. I had a few Commonwealth Games golds, which is fine. But everyone knows that the Commonwealth Games back then weren't very competitive when it came to cycling. Now it is extremely competitive, obviously, with Poms and Aussies and Kiwis, Canadians. But when I was racing, the Commonwealth Games wouldn't have been a C grade world champs, But. So I think a lot of people thought I was a lot better than what I actually was, and I never medalled at a world champs, not in the pursuit, until the year I won the Olympics. Okay. So I actually wasn't really that good. And you know what your times are like. That's a great thing about the pursuit. What your times are like compared to the best in the world, and I wasn't even bloody close, really. So it just shows how much we were messing around for 11 years or 10 years before we got it right in the last sort of 18 months.
It's always nice to hear someone who's got a good history and a good pedigree sort of eat a little humble pie and recommend and say that it is, you were fortunate to be riding when you were. But
totally, yeah.
But it's beautiful that you won your biggest titles with world records.
Yeah, I think we just got it right, And I was self-coached for a large part of my career. My dad coached me when I first started, like what you're doing with your little boys, mate. They were a little bit late into the start, I was about 16, and my dad helped me out, which was awesome. It was a perfect start. And then I effectively coached myself for the middle chunk of my career. We didn't have this or a Cycling New Zealand that provided coaches. It was just different, like everyone around the world. It was just a different ball game. And I loved it and thought I was doing a really good job. And then it was just literally the last couple of years where Brendan came on board and we decided to sort of try and do things quite differently for the last Olympic Games to see if I could actually reach my potential. And I think I probably wasted a good 10 years, good 10 years of being a full-time sports person before we actually, nailed what we needed to do.
I guess in an Olympic year it's kind of interesting to talk to someone who has enjoyed success at the Games and ponder the concept of how important the gold medal is. It would have changed your life enormously.
It's a really good question, because I think sometimes you can elevate the status of an Olympic gold medal beyond the actual reality of it.
Okay.
I think so anyway. But I think the best thing, the best thing, I can only speak personally, and it's great, but the sport's so, it's such a self-indulgent activity, really. It is, it's all about you, you're doing what you love, people that are around you are working for you, for your gig, and, you can... Yeah, I don't know. I think it's more of a selfish activity. Well, it certainly was for me anyway. But the coolest thing about being able to gain a profile, which isn't necessarily a positive thing, I'd say enjoy that, but what you can do with that, and appreciating the value of that and how you can actually influence change, which I didn't actually sort of appreciate until only really the last couple of years, and stuff that we managed to get done here with bike paths and sort of a bike movement and engagement and bike advocacy and encouraging more people to get on bikes. That's when the real value of I think when a country can see benefit of an Olympic gold medal as opposed to just an individual.
And that's why I think it's interesting to talk to you, because we're doing, the premise of the working title of this current magazine is the family issue, and so it's interesting to talk to someone who's become a mother, who is encouraging people to ride their bikes, who's not competitive in any way anymore, but we understand that the impact you had on New Zealand cycling was pretty significant. You became the face of the sport, and did it feel like that?
Not really. It's always a bit of a whirlwind, when you come back into reality. But yeah, I think that's the cool thing about retiring as well, and stepping right away from a like I say, a completely self-indulgent activity and getting perspective and seeing. I think what you're doing with the mag is bloody brilliant. Family issue. The market of people that want to ride bikes but don't really know how, or think it's a little bit unsafe, or the whole gear, my bike's got a flat tire, I can't ride, all this is just so much of a myth around there about cycling, and that stops people from getting into it. So I think what you guys are doing to open the doors and encourage people to get into it is just wicked, and that's what I've seen certainly since hanging up the competitive wheels. The amount of people that love riding, that haven't ridden since they were kids, but so the gig I'm into now is basically trying to build bike paths. We're trying to build a bike path along the length of the Waikato River here. Oh. So we've built sections, and we're just about to connect a couple of the dots. It's wicked, 70 k's, 3 metre wide concrete. And the amount of people you meet that are out riding because they've got a really safe, beautiful environment to ride in, that haven't ridden for years, that won't let their kids ride because they think it's too dangerous, but give them, like you say, build it and they will come if the environment's right. Someone sort of helps to break down the barriers for them. So yeah, and that's what it's neat. It's awesome. It's awesome. So my old man, he'll be 80 next year. He still rides 400 or 500 k's a week. And that's sort of a really good example of the sport. Like you with your little boys. Where a 6-year-old and 8-year-old can still really enjoy the sport for what it gives them psychologically, but also physically.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. I love it. I love any ways and means and help that I can provide to get more people moving, and that's my gig now. Yeah, cool. Not so much interest in this stuff anymore.
Part of the inspiration for the family issue comes from all of the lessons that I get from my kids. Yeah. So Xavier will tell me if we're riding, and I say to him, "Aren't you tired? We've been riding 3 or 4 hours." "Oh no, Dad, it's easy. If you push one pedal down, the other one comes up." And so he just has this positive attitude of it's just easy. It's just bike riding.
Yeah, that's
or
cool.
If we're out riding and it's raining, and I say to him, "What's the good thing about water?" And he always tells me, "It dries off." Yeah, it dries off.
Pretty cool attitude for a 6-year-old.
In other words, the problems, the restricting things, are only what you make of them.
Absolutely. We tend to make much more of it when we get older than you do when you're a 6-year-old, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. It's particularly here in Cambridge, which is, we're a little town of maybe 16,000 people. got this amazing, nearly $30 million high performance facility. We've got, cycling's based here, New Zealand cycling's based here now, New Zealand triathlon's based here, New Zealand high performance, New Zealand golf will be based here soon, canoe kayak, we're based here, rowing's just 5k's up the road at Lake Karapiro for the hub of rowing for New Zealand. So it's a real, the whole demographic of the town has changed from being, horses and the elderly really, when we first moved here, to a real high performance hub of some of the best athletes in the country, if not the world, and the best minds, the best research and technology and development. And so it's quite a cool ride to be on, to see a bit of a transformation of a wee town, but also see more people get on bikes in Cambridge now, and they've got a really good council that's really willing to make change and provide things like Te Awa, the bike path I'm involved with, and give people more impetus to move. So it's wicked. It's a cool time to be part of the sport, or the bigger part of the sport, I should say.
Yeah. Sometimes I question the whole model of pro cycling, for example, but then I realise that it gives a conversation point for a pastime that people love.
Yep.
And so therefore it's relevant.
Absolutely. Yeah, it provides inspiration.
Yeah.
And in the places that the guys ride, I don't really follow pro cycling at all. In fact, I don't follow it at all, but I watch the Tour de France for the scenery, just like so many other people, and I get inspired by it. I want to go and ride my bike over in France, And it has its place in every aspect of cycling has its place. Like that has its place. It's not for everyone. This has its place. It's not for everyone, but it does. This gets 70%, at least 70% community use. You get the high performance guys racing around here, for the rest of it. But otherwise, it's the over 60s walking around. It's the young kids. It's the mums and bubs class. It's predominantly used just by the community. People that wouldn't call themselves cyclists, but come in and use the facility because it's here.
I guess it's a different kind of investment. So if we look at Australian investment in cycling, it comes the missive from the government to the Australian Sports Commission, and from the Australian Sports Commission to Cycling Australia, and from Cycling Australia to the state bodies and the clubs, is that gold medals at the Olympics is the remit. That's what they've got to achieve. And I'm sort of saying at the moment, I'm in this active campaign of wanting to retract from that aspiration and look at the grassroots and bring people to cycling, so that eventually there's a bigger pool of talent, and inevitably from that bigger pool of talent success will come. Would you see it that way?
100%, and it's really interesting because we're exactly the same here. Don't be fooled. Our high performance sports structure is entirely funded based on the ability for individuals to win medals, and that's so you win a medal, you get funded, or you're in the top 10, you get funded. Outside of whatever the parameter is, you don't. It's all about targeted medals. It's all about predicting medals. So it's really similar, which I completely disagree with. It's such a tiny return on investment. You invest $35 million in Australia or $20 million in New Zealand over a 4-year cycle into cycling, and your only KPI on that, or your only return on investment, is if someone comes back with a medal. It's bloody hard to win medals. It's and if that's your only return on investment, it's a ridiculous thing to invest in. It's ridiculous, I reckon. So I completely agree that there needs to be a wider remit of investing into cycling or into any sport, and realising the benefits of investing into either infrastructure, bike paths, reasons to get people biking to school, or ways of getting people biking to school, or playing soccer or walking, or whatever the sport is.
Exactly.
It's far more important for lots of reasons, for the general community, but also, like you say, it gives a bigger pool for people that will then be in the sport, that will go on and win Olympic medals, which will happen anyway. So I completely agree.
We were mountain biking around Tauport.
Nice.
Tauport.
Nicely pronounced.
And we bumped into these 14 and 17-year-old yesterday and said, how often do you ride? And they looked at me like I was sort of from outer space. They said, well, every day. Yeah. Every day we ride. After school we ride. On the weekends we ride until the sun goes down.
Yeah.
And you could see they were like bubbling with energy.
They've got a playground, right?
Yeah, they've got the perfect spot.
Yeah.
When you've got the facility that exists in New Zealand, then it makes perfect sense.
And relatively affordable too. I think it's $10 a season, I think, to ride in Craters of the Moon.
Incredible.
It is incredible. And Rotorua was free. You've got the most incredible playground in Rotorua of hundreds of kilometres of mountain biking there, probably some of the best mountain biking in the world, all for free. It's amazing, yeah.
So whose initiative is all of that? Is it the government or who?
No, it's not. More recently, the government's really investing into cycle trails. So they've realised that cycling is a really good mode of transport for people, and potentially could be a lot better. B, there's a whole heap of people that want to ride bikes but simply won't unless there's a safe facility for them. And C, that they've looked at, from a tourism perspective, what we can do to open up parts of New Zealand by bike that have previously been unavailable. So what you rode, that Kinloch ride, the Great Lake Trail, that's part of what's called the New Zealand Cycle Trail. The government gave $50 million about 3 years ago to invest in about 20. Someone's not so happy with their cycling experience. About $50 million to invest in about 20 great rides around the country. So they had to be iconic scenery, off-road, multi-day. So they've popped up now, like our Great Walks, all around New Zealand, and have been reinvested over time, over years, and will continue to be invested in, and opening up literally spectacular scenery, like what you rode in Taupo. So it's awesome. So that's one aspect, and the transport. So that's government directed. Yes. Also, government directed has been the New Zealand Transport Agency, that have given $300 million up till 2 years ago. It was $50 million that they gave towards cycling infrastructure related to transport. That's now times by 6, and they've invested, it's actually over $300 million over 4 years to invest into cycling infrastructure. So you'll see, if you go into cities, Auckland, Wellington, Christchurch, Dunedin, a little bit in Hamilton, there'll be little bits of cycling infrastructure that are suddenly popping up everywhere that they will continue to reinvest in. And then the other arm is into Cycling New Zealand, which is the high performance arm. But then you need the local councils as well. So like Taupo, they've got an amazing bunch of people. Bike Taupo, it's just a group of volunteers that have basically made that trail happen, and you'll find that basically in most of the parts of the country you'll get a little bit of government funding, but it really relies on a core group of predominantly volunteers that think cycling's a great idea, that work together to use sometimes a bit of government funding, sometimes not. Like for us, for Te Awa here, we had about 6 years of no government funding, but we still raised about $11 million to build about 23 Ks. We've since received a bit of transport agency funding. But so there's pockets like us all around the country that are just making cool cycling projects happen that are now actually being supported by both local government and national government. So it's cool. We've got a good mix at the moment of central government and generally speaking, good local government support for lots of different cycling projects, which is cool.
For a population of, let's say, 4 million, it pays enormous dividends if you get a bigger percentage riding.
Totally. You don't need much more.
You're investing in the community by not only making safer riding conditions and good ways of getting around, but you're minimising your health spend.
Exactly. There are lots of countries that are setting a pretty good benchmark for others to follow, but it requires a good leader. You need someone with big vision, I think, and the courage to back that up, to say, look, we're actually going to spend $300 million in cycling. There's still a lot of people that would think that's not a good investment. But I think the more you spend, the more infrastructure you put down, the more people that get on bikes, like you say, the health benefits, the economic benefits, tourism. They're all well documented. But it's good. We're doing some cool stuff here in New Zealand at the moment. It's awesome. We're on a really good positive momentum forward.
And how does it merge with car culture? You don't have enough people to invest enormously into public transport, for example. So in other words, you do end up with huge suburban swathes of land, or you don't have an alternative other than, let's say, driving around.
Pretty much.
When you're on the road, is there aggression? Is there that universal clash of ideology?
There is a little bit still, but I think it's got a lot better. There's lots more people riding now, and there's also a lot more pieces of cycling infrastructure that are putting cyclists onto those as opposed to onto the roads. But I always sort of think, there is definitely a difference in cultures. We're not one road user like they're trying to achieve, which is a big task to take on. But I think how many cars pass you on a bike ride? 200. Depends how long you go. 200, 1,000.
Right.
How many dickheads do you get? 1, 2?
Yeah.
You know, you get two out of 1,000 dickheads in normal life. You know, you get that in bloody whatever field you're in. So it's just the fact that those aggressive dickheads have the ability to kill you on a bike, which makes it all the more, you know, exasperated.
Yeah.
So I don't think I think it's definitely improved. There's a long way to go, but we're on the right track.
Yeah.
And you know, like I said, the more piece of infrastructure they build, the more, you know, trails that push people onto roads. Because there are some roads that just aren't bloody safe for cyclists to be on there, and there are big cycle groups that take up half the road, and it's a two-way thing. You know.
Think about it.
Exactly. Think about it. Yeah. Is this a good way to be riding? Should we be riding 3 abreast here, guys?
Yeah.
20 deep? Probably not.
No.
On blind corners? No. So yeah, there's a total two-way street.
Exactly. I've heard it said, and I think I've referenced it in an interview before, but everyone says that it needs to be a cultural change, but it doesn't. It has to be bigger than that. It's a spiritual change that's required, and it seems like that's happening here.
Yeah, and it's never going to change like that. You're not suddenly going to get, you know, motorists and cyclists holding hands and, you know, you know, in this beautiful, you know, happy world. You know, it takes a long time for the, you know, conversion. So, but I think we're on the right track. Yeah, it was sort of, we wouldn't have said that 10 years ago, but certainly now I think there's a lot better than what it used to be.
Once the attitude changes, then it all just
totally
it accelerates, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's and little bit by bit, like something like this, which has exposed a type of the sport. And so we've got the project I work on, Tiawa. You can ride your bike from this velodrome into Cambridge without touching a road. Mm-hmm. It's just 3.5 k's. And soon you'll be able to ride into Hamilton on the similar bike paths. But it's suddenly you've got people that can ride their bike out here, their kids can ride on the track, they haven't ridden in 20 years, suddenly they're motorists themselves, suddenly their whole family is exposed to a whole different type of the sport, whether it's on a trail or on a fixed wheel. And they're converted. And you know, this facility got a lot of backlash from the community. You know, $30 million, they were going to tax the ratepayers $3 a year for 20 years. Lots of ratepayers didn't want that. We've got quite a large elderly vocal population in grey power that thought it was a stupid idea. It's just for the elites, it's nothing to do with the community, it's not going on my rate card. But that now it's been built, and you know, you probably get, you know, probably 40% of the users are grey power here now, you know, the elderly. It's awesome. You know, on a rainy day they can come in here, they can ride the trikes, they can walk around the top. And that attitude has completely changed in terms of, you know, what the fear was before the facility was built to what the actual reality is. Because money can actually change opinion.
Yeah.
You know? And then and it's been awesome, and then the whole community has got behind it. Generally speaking, you know, it's a really positive thing to have people realise the benefits of it. That the bike path out here just gets a hammering. You know, people walk out or buggy out or scoot out or run out or bike out on the bike path here. They have a coffee, they come in here, they like what you've seen. Little kids watching it, they'll ride the bike skills park that's just outside. So it's a real hub, you know, and the community, if they might not use it, they can still appreciate the benefits of it. Which in turn makes the whole attitude between them and us a whole lot better. It's cool.
3.5 kilometres, like, and it was back in your day, you only had to ride 3.
Exactly that. I know. I have to ride even less than that now to get to school as well.
But you also had a career on the road, and you know, and it all ended because of an iliac artery issue. Is that right?
No, it wasn't artery. It was the SI joint. Yeah, just over. I think, you know, you do the same thing for 16 years. Something's going to give at some stage. So yeah, and I didn't have the energy to keep pursuing it. You know, it was quite different then. You know, now there's. So in this facility here, there's about 40 full-time employees of Bike NZ.
Wow.
Cycling NZ, sorry. Yeah, it's amazing. So that's made up of some part-timers and some full-timers, but the equivalent of, so there's physios, there's doctors, you know, the coaches, high-performance directors, admin staff, sports scientists, mechanics, you name it, it's a whole heap. So yeah, I think, but before I retired, there was no structure. I actually came to Australia to see the guys in the AIS to help me out, because you know, they were all in one place, they were a hub, whereas here it was all fragmented. There was a doctor here and a physio here, they didn't work together, they weren't working for cycling, they were just working for their own businesses. So it was just, I think I was ready to retire anyway. It was old enough.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you got too much energy to sit still and sit in front of the television and just eat potato chips. And
no, too much to do.
And were you...
You know, the kids love it. They love riding bikes, you know, scooters, skateboards, bikes, soccer. You know, it's cool. That's cool. You can find the fun again in anything, with kids.
The bike is the antidote to screen time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I think screen time is something that we really need to be aware of.
Yeah, it's funny. Well, I mean, I don't embrace technology at all. So it's a very simple rule in our house. It's just never offered. So our kids don't. I mean, they wouldn't have watched TV for about 3 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and. It's it's really interesting. They don't need it, like you say. They don't need it. You offer them a ball, you offer them a bike. It's way more fun, you know. But you're right. It's saying there's because I don't embrace it. I don't know anything about technology. I don't embrace it. I don't enjoy it. I don't get any kicks out of it. I hate it. And it's a whole foreign world. Because I don't embrace it. It's not prevalent in our household for the kids. But they've really asked for it, so it can't be. I don't know.
Yeah.
It can't be that much of a cool thing.
No,
yeah.
no.
I'd much rather take them for a bike ride or
That's it.
kick a ball around or go for a walk. Yeah.
Well, we could talk all day. I know I could.
Good. There's coffee to drink somewhere
There's
though.
coffee to drink. And
Louis is getting itchy feet. He's desperate to get back on the
there's
fixed
a boy,
wheel.
and there's actually a plane to catch, so we unfortunately have to dong it on the head.
Sweet. Just one more lap, Dad.
And
It's cool you could come though. It's so cool you can see what we do here.
It's really nice. And, unfortunately we are preaching to the converted. But
Exactly.
if we pop this up on YouTube, and hopefully someone who is converted will share it with someone who's cynical, and we might just create a lesson here or there.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Who knows?
Who knows?
There's very few people, don't you reckon, that will hop on a bike if the conditions are right. I mean, you won't throw them on a bike in downtown Auckland or Sydney, but very few people I find who hop on a bike on our bike paths or anywhere that don't enjoy it.
Yes.
I mean, almost none, you know?
Yeah.
So it's just a matter
easy.
of getting, it's easy, yeah. It doesn't have to be expensive.
No.
Yeah, so it's cool. It's
Yeah.
cool movement to be part of.
Yeah. Sarah, thanks as always for having a chat.
Sweet as. Thanks for coming to our country.
We'll see you in
our
another
town.
10 years.
See you in another 10 years, yeah.